Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee or a delicious menu item while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Come by and say hello to Maui. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
And good evening. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at criticalblast.com. And once again, we are going to delve into the world of crowdfunded comics. And tonight we're going to kick it on over to Kickstarter for a little while and talk about a double feature comic from Silverline. So this is going to be a special show. This is a 2-hour show with 2 guests coming in, first hour, second hour. So double duty, get comfortable. Keep your seat. Don't go anywhere after the first hour because the show's still going to go on. So please welcome with me to the stage, to the screen. I don't know. What are we looking at here? We have Barbara Kalberg with us. Barbara, how are you tonight?
I'm great, thank you. A little warm up here in Wisconsin, but other than that, it's been a beautiful day. Working hard on some inks.
Oh, good. So you are the writer and the artist then.
For Divinity, I work for Silverline Comics. Actually, I was part of the ground crew that first started off Silverline 3.0. And I'm also their CFO, so I take care of all of their accounts. And I started out as just inking, which I have done for 30 plus years. Been a professional inker. Inking cat and mouse. And lately, the last couple of years, I decided to push the envelope from stuff that I've been doing for 30 plus years and saying, if I'm going to do it, I better get off my duff and do it because, 60. When I turned 60 a couple of years ago, I said, if I'm going to do anything different, now's the time to do it. So I started writing. I learned to color. So I created my own book, Divinity. And I'm a good writer, but I am a poor scripter. I'm learning. But for Divinity 1 and 2, and all for the foreseeable future, R.A. Jones is helping me script. And he is so talented. I don't think I could do it by myself.
He's been all over the place.
He has been. He is a true consummate professional.
I just saw pictures of his Scimitar the other day.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, I had a sketch of Scimitar when I was in college at the convention. But then I got confused and I was like, well, yeah, he wrote it, but Rob Davis was probably the one who drew the sketch.
Yeah, he's part of Silverline here too.
Yeah, I'm going to have him redraw that sketch because I got married and my sketch disappeared. So I don't know.
That happens. So I had to find a penciler because I do not pencil. Well, I pencil, but it would take me a year just to pencil an issue. So we don't want that. I have a penciler and I ink it and color it. So I'm the creator, the co-writer, the inker, and the colorist for my own book.
So do you work on digital or you still prefer the blue line boards? A
little of both. You know, for the longest time, I turned my nose up at digital work because I'm an artist. I only work on the drawing board and on originals. And when originals started going to blue lines, that was culture shock for me because I had gotten out of comics for a few years. When I came back, everything was coming to you via email or in Dropbox. You download the pencils, turn them blue in Photoshop, and print them out on 500-pound Strathmore, the blue lines, and you ink over the blue lines. And when that happened, I was in culture shock because I'd always worked on original pencils, but nobody ever sends them anymore. And then I had to get real and break into the digital world to learn how to do coloring. And I found that I was about 3 times as fast digitally inking as I was with the original inks. Now, I still do original inks, but what I'll do is I will pick out the cover and 3 or 4 of the most dynamic pages out of the issue, and I will ink those traditionally.
Okay.
So that I can sell them on the Kickstarter, and then I will ink the rest of the book digitally.
See, I can see where, if I were an artist, which I am not, but I could see where digital coloring would definitely be faster. And, you've got that greater palette to work with.
Mm-hmm.
But inking, I would be like, I would much prefer the texture of the paper under my hand inking.
Mm-hmm.
But, at the same time, I know that if I screw up, I can't just Control Z the paper and get that last mark off of there.
Yes, and that's one of my issues is that I'm a perfectionist, and when I lay down a line on a page, it's right where it's supposed to be. I very rarely ever have to use whiteout on my pages. They're incredibly clean and precise, but that also slows me down. And I mean, I'm going to be brutally honest here. I'm in my 60s and the eyes aren't what they used to be.
Oh, no.
So with digital inking, you can just expand the screen and see all those little details and then just push it back down. And it's kind of nice. I'm not having to strain my eyes to see, especially when you're trying to see tiny little lines on blue lines. That's even harder than seeing on regular pencils.
And see all those eyelashes? I cross-hatched those.
I have done that. I have done some incredibly detailed work back in the day. And I look back at that stuff now and said, who inked that? Man, oh man, that's good. I could never do that. And I thought, oh, that was me.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you'd done work on Cat and Mouse. And I wanted to say, I remember Roland, I interviewed him once, he talked about Cat and Mouse, and I was back in my comics cave at the time, and all my books were here. I'm like, oh, you mean this one? I grabbed the C box and pulled it out. And I had Cat and Mouse, but I think it was like Aircell or something.
Yeah, that was way back in. We restarted Cat and Mouse. That was the first book that we started with Silverline 3.0. So I'm currently inking issue 4 of that. And I'm doing that. I'm doing Divinity, and I am coloring a graphic novel called Sirens, which is actually, I'm doing the second graphic novel. I've already done the first. So I keep very, very busy. And fortunately, I'm retired from my Muggle job. And I jumped back into comics, both feet first, and I have not looked back. I'm just having the time of my life.
You get to do it all day long and do what you love.
Yep. Except when the grandkids are over, and then I've got to, it's impossible to ink with them around.
Well, of course, you got to ink what they want to see drawn too,
Yeah. But I got out of comics for a while, then I got back in part-time, but I was also working full-time, doing an accounting job. But now there's a difference between a job and a career.
Yes.
Accounting was always my job. Comics were my career, and I did it full time for 12 years back in the 90s. I was going flat out 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, 2 to 3 books a month, just as fast as I could until the big implosion. And then it kind of went down to part-time after that.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the 90s, like everybody had a book again. It was like the mid 80s all over again. Like right after the Turtles came out and people realized, oh, all you need is a mimeograph machine in your garage and you can crank out $1 million book. Yeah, let's do that.
There were times when I was working for 4 companies at once.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The joys of a freelance.
Well, I won't claim to be the best inker in the world. I'm a good inker. I won't claim to be the best, but I was reliable and I never missed a deadline. I was a workhorse and I knew it. So yeah. I had as much work as I could handle. Yeah. And I was turning it away.
Yeah, not missing a deadline will get you more jobs with an editor than, being Todd McFarlane will. Because, if it takes you a month and a half, 2 months to do a book and they need it in a month, get it to the person who can deliver you a book in a month.
I never did. I never missed a deadline once.
I find it interesting, too, that you refer to Silverline as Silverline 3.0 because it has, published, stopped, published, stopped. And there are other industries, other publishers that are doing the same thing. Right? I talked with Randy Zimmerman. He's at Arrow 4.0 right now.
Yep, I was just on with him yesterday morning.
That's right. I saw you on the Sunday Funnies there.
Yes, and he was doing Arrow 4.0. And, it depends on the time that you do this. There's times in histories when it's going to work, and there's times when it's not. And I think right now, the iron is hot for indie comics, and now it's time to strike. I think,
especially crowdfunding.
Yes, I think indie comics is the future of comics. So we're very passionate about that. I mean, and Silverline is a genre-spanning company, independent company that we'll draw anything. I mean, we got children's books, we've got adventures, we've got sci-fi, we've got fantasy. This is a kind of a cross between 2 or 3 different types of genres, and if it's a good idea, we'll go for it. Unlike, say, the big 2, which are very, very hesitant about coming out of their little well-defined box, or superheroes. And I mean, DC tried for a while doing something different, but even then they had to answer to their corporate sponsors, and the big bucks and the bean counters. So they were limited on what they did too. In independent comics, there is no limit. You do a good story and you find an audience and you've got it made.
Yeah. This is, as I've said before, a total renaissance period for the indie books. And I've talked with, and I can't reveal any information about them, but I've talked with people who did indie books that were my favorites in the late 80s, early 90s. And it's like, gosh, I wish you'd crowdfund that. And they're like, well, let me tell you a little secret. So I'm looking forward to some titles making a resurgence again. But, there's a lot of stuff that's like, somebody should, now that we're crowdfunding, somebody should get the rights to this book or that book. And a lot of it's just so tied up, I guess, and buried. Marvel bought a lot of characters from Malibu with pretty much the intent purpose of not publishing them as long as they owned them.
And I worked for Malibu they were the company that really started me off. I was doing Planet of the Apes with Adventure Comics, which was an offshoot of Malibu.
Okay.
Back in 1989. And I did 11 issues of Planet of the Apes and jumped over to Malibu, and they gave me as many superheroes as I could possibly ink. They didn't care that I was a woman. Other companies did. Apparently women can't ink superheroes. I don't know.
I would say, why would they care if you're an inker? Why would this? They're not. I've seen the argument before about firefighters, okay, and like frontline combat people. Can you carry an 80-pound pack on your back 6 miles? Inking?
I know.
Seriously, what's the?
I know, but seriously, all I ever got from Marvel was Barbie. But I did a lot of Barbies for them, and I wish I'd done more now because they fly off my table at conventions. I did a lot of Barbie. I did some Gargoyles, a few Disney things. She-Hulk. You're getting
that'd be a fun one.
Yeah, you're getting a theme here, though, right? It's all girl books, right?
Well, that's because Marvel doesn't hire writers and inkers; they cast them.
Yeah. And DC had no problem, though. I spent 2.5 years on Impulse. I did 17 issues of Primal Force, beginning to end. Green Lantern, Hawkman. I had no problem at getting work at DC at all with superheroes. They didn't care. I was making deadlines. That's all they cared about. And Malibu was the same way. Her inks are good. She's making deadlines. Give her as much as she wants. I did every issue of Solitaire, and I worked on Solution and the Strangers and Mantra and Prime and just everything they had.
I was buying them all. Yeah. So you're listing all these titles like, yep, bought that one, bought that one, bought that one. And
it's interesting to see where some of my previous pencilers have gone. For instance, like I used to ink over Derek Robertson, and now he's the co-owner of The Boys on Amazon. So that's always interesting. You see where people you've known for 30 years end up. Yeah,
I did. When you're inking She-Hulk, was that the John Byrne run or?
No, but I did. I was inking over John Statema, but the editor at the time did ask me to give her Byrne hair. And I complied. It looked just like John Byrne. So I was very good
I
at
want
mimicking.
that too. I want Byrne hair now.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
Well, tell us a little bit about this new book, Divinity, here that you're working on. In fact, before you do that, let me go ahead and see if I can't play the video and see where that takes us, since there is a video here.
Yeah, go for it.
Hi, I'm Roland Mann, and I'm the chief cook and bottle washer at Silverline Comics, a genre-spanning independent comic and graphic novel publisher. And I'm here to tell you about our latest Kickstarter. Before I do, though, I need to remind you that we are 10 for 10. We have done 10 Kickstarters, and we have fulfilled 10 of them on time. That's important. Thank you for push and play, because I know that you got a lot of options. But we've done several of them before. You can see here, we've got Kickstarter books that are flip books, and that's what we're doing again. So I'm just going to jump right in, and I'm going to let Barb tell you about Divinity.
Hi guys, this is Barb Kalberg, the creator of Divinity, and I want to thank everyone for their patience in waiting for this next issue. It's been a crazy year, as I'm sure you're aware, but it's going to wait. Thanks again.
Thanks, Barb. Now I'm going to let Scott tell you about Steam.
Hello, everyone. I'm Scott Wakefield, and I created Steam Patriots with my buddy Rory when we said that the steampunk world needs an origin story that starts in America. And we threw in crazy inventions by Ben Franklin and a young hero who's going to get swept up into the war when the British storm ashore looking for trouble in 1776. If you love history, you love steampunk, or you love action-adventure stories, you're going to be crazy about Steam Patriots. So we would love if you could support us however you can. And we can't wait to get the story into your hands. Thanks so much.
Cool. Thanks, Scott. Now, all we need is you. These books are finished. They're done. We got a little bit of work to do on the covers. Got some coloring to do. But other than that, the interiors are finished. All we really need is you to help us get the funds so that we can print them and ship them. Right? And as you've already seen, as I told you earlier, we're 10 for 10. This is going to be 11 for 11, but we need your help. Thank you, and remember to make mine Silverline.
I'm muted. That was fun. I'm laughing because I'm watching Roland put all that energy and enthusiasm into his delivery, and I just finished binging Better Call Saul, and I'm like, yeah, it's exactly how Saul Goodman would do that. Jimmy McGill would deliver that way.
Yeah, he can talk the leg off a mule, and which is good in his. I'm not as good as that. I'm always a little hesitant when I'm on camera. As you can see, we're just shy of 5,500, which will be the next stretch goal, and I really hope we hit that tonight.
Ooh, $51, guys. Come
yes,
on, $51. We can do this
to hit the next stretch goal. A little bit about Divinity.
Yeah, let's tempt them into doing this. Let's give them a reason to buy it.
Well, the first reason to buy it is that it won the Best New Independent Series of 2020 from the Independent Comics Award. So it's got something going for it anyway.
Cool.
It's a story about 11-year-old Divinity Gray, or as we call her Vinny, who loses her parents under mysterious circumstances. And this was in the first issue that we see where her parents are dead, and her older brother, who's 26, is let go from the Marines on a hardship discharge because he's her only living relative. So he comes back to look after her, and not knowing that while he was away, she had a near-death experience, and when she recovered, she had apparently developed mysterious healing ability. He comes back. He doesn't know how to handle an 11-year-old girl. He's a 26-year-old Marine. What does he know about girls? You know, he wants to say, you jump, and have her say how high, and what she says, I hate you. And instead, you know, she's having total meltdowns. Half the time she's a child, half the time she's an adult. He doesn't know what he's doing. He'd rather be back in Afghanistan taking bombs than dealing with an 11-year-old tweener. But he comes to realize that there was something suspicious about the death of his father and stepmother. And as he's beginning to look into it, he discovers that Vinny has this mysterious healing ability. And just about the time he's starting to put two and two together, special forces units, black ops, non-government issue, burst in the front door. And that's where issue 1 ends. And we pick up issue 2. They are on the run, and we don't know who they're running from, why they're having to run. He knows it's got to have something to do with Vinny's healing powers, but why, he doesn't know. And I want my audience to stop and think about, if they knew somebody who could heal, what would they be willing to do to get their hands on this person? Because I'm sure every single one of us has got somebody in their life that they want to fix.
Oh yeah.
And that's actually that's the impetus of this entire story. It came about in a dream after my brother was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic cancer. And I was so determined that I wanted to fix him. And I think that's where this story evolved. About a month later, I dreamt up this story. Unfortunately, I did not have a Divinity. And the reason that the issue 2 was delayed was because I took several months off to care for him in his final days. But I dedicated this book to him. He's my muse. And I want it to be something that's relatable to everybody. She is the only person in the story that's going to have any kind of powers. Everybody else is real, normal, everyday people. But you know what? We have got plenty of evil people in the real world that I really don't have to make up a whole lot of villains.
Yeah, they come out of the woodwork. Powered either.
Nope. I mean, we've got I got all kinds of storylines I could go with. I could go with dictators, drug lords, the government,
Big Pharma.
Secret. Yeah, exactly. And that was one of them, Big Pharma, who wouldn't want Divinity around. Religious fanatics who either see her as a savior or the devil. Scientific think tanks would love to get their hand on her and dissect her. I mean, the possibilities for storylines are endless. And my ultimate goal is to have an overarching, think of the old Hulk series with Bill Bixby, or the old Fugitive TV series, where they have this overarching villain that sends them on the run, that are constantly after them. But along the way, they're on the road, they run into other stories, subplots, other characters, people who help them, people who are after them. And so they have constant little stories along the way. So it's kind of a road show. They're running from somebody, but they have all these stories along the way.
So are you looking at Divinity as a finite arc of these stories, or do you just have it open-ended and it's just going to keep going until you get tired of writing it?
The first 4 issues have a small conclusion, which leaves it wide open.
Oh, sure.
To continue, which is, if it's popular enough, that's what we would like to do. I would like to see it continue indefinitely, because like I said, the story possibilities are endless. We've got not only the conflict of who or why people would want to get their hands on Divinity, but we've also got this subplot of a struggle to become a family. We've got a brother and a sister who really don't know each other at all. And I'm trying to do a software update here. Along the way,
comes at the most inconvenient times, doesn't it?
I know. And along the way, Zach, her brother, calls for help because he's out of his depth here. He's a sergeant in the Marines, and this is something he's out of depth with. He needs help. He needs backup. So he calls another ex-Marine buddy of his, Olivia Barnes, and she comes running to help. And it becomes this tiny little nuclear family. There's no romance between Olivia and Zach, but she's tired of her ex-military life, as there's a gal at a construction that holds a stop sign, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Turn,
what a come down.
turn. Yeah.
Yeah. So she willingly goes on the run with them and takes up the cause of protecting this 11-year-old girl from the big bad. And they become a little family unit. And we see the dichotomy between the action and adventure and the violence of the world around them, as opposed to them struggling to learn how to live with each other. And watching Zach and Vinny butt heads. And a lot of, I hate you, you're mean to me.
Sure.
I don't know if you have kids.
I don't have two, so
I don't know if you've ever gone through the teen stage or the tween stage.
yeah.
I
Mine is
have.
13, and if he starts going through that whole "stop touching me" business, I'm going to have to commit him because there's no one there.
Oh yeah, it's too bad you don't have two, because then you would have him in the backseat of the car going, "Mom, he's looking at me. Mom, tell her to don't touch me."
Oh, yeah.
And it goes like that for hours.
My favorite's the whole "I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you."
Oh God, yes,
And
yes.
then you get punched, and he's like, "I wasn't touching him." Well, it wasn't worth it then, was it?
So we're in that stage with the
joy.
Marine.
Yes. Okay, so I don't know. I get the general concept. She heals things.
Mhm.
I'm the kind of writer, and I do write. I've got, I write the Destroyer series with Remo Williams right now,
Mhm.
and I've done some other stuff. But I extrapolate things to extremes.
Mhm.
So if I get a character, and that's what slows me down, because it's an impediment to my writing, because I'm taking things out to the infinite possibility. If I have a character who heals, and it's like, what do? I heal people. Okay, what does that mean? Do you like touch cuts and stabs and they heal up, the skin cells regrow? Do you touch a stub of an arm and a new arm grows off? Is it more like that? What do you, limit fixing what's wrong with the person? Do you take a schizophrenic and make them stable-minded by rearranging brain chemistry? And, if you keep going further and further out with that, then you've got, well, can fix
she raise
what's...
the dead?
Well, yeah, raise the dead. That's a very extreme level. But then there's like ethical questions, like, can you make a person be one way because obviously it's a decision by someone else that there's something wrong with them because they're another way.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be anything.
And all of those questions are absolutely excellent. And we will explore them at some point or another, because she has just come into her powers recently. And we don't know. Well, the audience doesn't know. And the characters don't know what this is going to lead to. They don't know the extent of her powers. And she's still a little girl. Will her powers grow with her? Can they be used defensively, offensively? Can you be used to kill? Can they be used to raise the dead? Can they be used to regenerate a lost limb? You are asking all of the right questions.
And as she travels, she's going to become something of an internet legend.
A myth, yep, urban legend, exactly.
Yeah, she'll be all over social. Not herself, but people she's encountered or say they've encountered her will be all over social media. So
that's right.
I saw the Divinity. This Divinity did this for me.
And where did she get her powers? It's not explained. She doesn't know where she got them, and I don't think I will ever explain it.
There's no reason to.
There's no reason to, and I want Divinity to appeal to a wide general audience. So there's really no need to pin it down to one particular faith or belief or anything like that. It just is.
And so you can believe it to be whatever you need it to be.
That's exactly right.
Your personal thing. I mean,
that's exactly right.
There are secrets in the comics world that as soon as they're spoiled, they're ruined.
Right.
I didn't need to know Wolverine's origin. He was Logan with amnesia. I don't need to know the Joker's real name. These are things that they're consistently. That's the mystery, and that's part of the character.
Logan was so much more fun when he was a mystery
and a berserker.
Yes. Yeah, and I will never. I should never say never, but it's not my intention to ever reveal where the powers come from. And as I said before, the story possibilities are almost infinite. And I've got some nuggets running around in my head right now about a religious fanatic group that gets all up in arms.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And we'll see, we're going to touch on one of your concerns we're doing a Christmas book, Silverline is, where all the characters have a little 6-page Christmas story. And she will touch on one of those issues that you just brought up in that Christmas story.
Looking forward to that. Does this, I haven't scrolled all the way down because I don't want to give people seizures with the big window going up and down, because I'm a mouse scroller by eye. I'll be sitting there just, like up, down, while I'm talking. But is there an opportunity to get number 1
Yes.
in this? Okay. Because I think, if a lot of people come in here, they see number 2, obviously they're going to want to get both of them together.
Kickstarter just recently added or revamped, and they have a new feature where you can do add-ons to your Kickstarter. And all of our Kickstarters have the availability to add on any of our issues from any of our books on every single Kickstarter.
That is excellent. You got a store now.
Yep, basically a store. And we've got original art available for every Kickstarter. So there's some absolutely fantastic pinups and interior artwork available as an add-on as well.
That's really going to streamline future campaigns for everybody, because Indiegogo's doing the same thing. They got the add-on.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done enough of these now to know that it gets really frustrating for the guy controlling the screen here. If I've got to scroll through 35 different tiers because you had to come up with every single permutation of everything in something.
Exactly right. That is exactly right.
Yeah, and now I'm seeing them come up. Here's the book. That's it. It's the book. Buy the book. Oh, and here's everything else you can throw onto it now.
Yep. I think we have 3 or 4 tiers, and we show some of the artwork that's available on the add-ons, and that's all we have on the first page now, and it's so much easier. It's been, I mean, we looked at what we've gotten so far for this Kickstarter, and we've got a lot of add-ons for just different books that we've had, not just Divinity or Steam Patriots, but people who have forgotten to pick up an issue of Shameless or the first 2 issues of Cat and Mouse. They're adding all that stuff on, And
absolutely,
it's fantastic.
Now you mentioned way back earlier that Divinity is she's the only person with any power on her world, and you're going to keep her that way.
That's right.
She's the only one. And I think a lot of the story, I'm not telling you how to write your book. Again, I'm a writer. I start thinking in circles around things. But I think a lot of the story would be the world and not Divinity. But because the world is the thing that got poked by this thing that's not supposed to be in it, that it's not used to. And how does society respond politically and socially and religiously to incontrovertible fact that something supernatural exists? I mean, not to get too out on a religious bent here, but 2,000 years ago, a guy walked out of a grave, and we haven't stopped talking about it since.
That's a really good point. And this came about back in 2019, the story of Divinity, without any idea that we were going to see a 220, right? And if 2020 has taught me anything, it tells me that, boy, I am asking all the right questions, because 2020 was crazy. I mean, we saw so much good and so much evil in that particular year that it just adds to the fact that I think I'm on the right track, and I must be, because after issue 1 was published, Maggie Thompson, I think everybody knows who Maggie Thompson is.
Yes.
She was blown away. She says, I can't wait to get my hands on the next issue.
That's high praise indeed. I mean, Don and Maggie were heroes of mine back when, the CBG was coming out, and they were on top of that. I keep getting ready to point behind me because I'm used to broadcasting from the comics cave in my basement, in my last place, where I had 30 boxes of long boxes, bookshelves behind me. I'm sitting here pointing. I still have Don Thompson's All in Color for a Dime right here, and I was getting ready to pull it, and it's not there. But
two of my favorite people in the world, also from Wisconsin here.
that's right, they are.
Yeah, I used to go up to the Iola picnic every year. Another great review I got was from Kevin Van Hook, who created Bloodshot with Vin Diesel, the movie.
Yes.
He gave me a great review too. He said it was fantastic characters, and he said really good stuff. So I've been really pleased with some of the reviews I've gotten for it. But I'll tell you what, the best review I've gotten is from people, guys who have picked up the book Divinity 1, bought it, and then their wives got their hands on it and said, I'm keeping this book. This is my book now. This is great. I love it. Where's issue 2? So it's the wives who steal Divinity from their husbands and then get totally hooked. That, to me, is my best compliment.
And now the husbands have the opportunity to buy their second copy of number 1 on this one. And you might as well buy 2 copies of number 2 while you're at it.
That's right.
Because you know they're going to get stolen from you. So let's take a look at what the comic is here. For $8, you can get the digital double, which is the PDF.
Mm-hmm.
And you know we've been down this road before. It's a double comic, but no, you're not going to have to turn your monitor upside down when you get to the halfway point there.
And let me just pause you there to tell you why we're doing doubles.
Yeah,
we have so many books in the pipeline that we can't Kickstarter them all individually. So we're having to double up all of our Kickstarters. So, I mean, eventually the goal is to get into the comic book shops, because we are getting so many books that we're going to have to run Kickstarters constantly. Right now, we're running them every 2 months, and it's a lot of work to do a Kickstarter. And then we have to fulfill, so we're giving us a month to, it's like 17 days, something like that, to run one, and then a month to fulfill, then a week or 2 to gear up for the next one, and then do another one. And we have got, I don't know, a couple of dozen books in the pipeline. So we're having to do double Kickstarters for every single one of our books, because we don't have enough time and enough Kickstarters to get them all out.
Will you start doing Indiegogos in parallel?
Yeah, I mean, and we're looking at all the possibilities, because we just keep getting more books, more people jumping on board, and saying, I have this great idea. And we're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, this is good. Okay. We'll add it to the pile.
Add it to the pile. Yeah, I want to do that someday, but I can't draw. And I'm not going to ever have the pile of money in my hand to pay an artist to do something in advance, which is what you have to do, because these artists, they like to eat for some reason. You know what that's like, Barbara.
Not anymore. I'm retired, but yes, I supported the family for 12 years on my comic book money back in the 90s, and I did a damn good job of it too.
Well, good. Maybe there's hope for me yet in this business. I'm staking my claim in the distribution channels of it now, though. We're doing the international distribution for people who crowdfund from outside the United States.
Good for you.
And if you've ever ordered one, it's like $25, $30 shipping. It's more
yeah.
So we have clients now. We're doing a book from Australia that just finished crowdfunding. Got a lot of orders from the United States for that one, because we were able to get the shipping down to $10.
Oh my God, really? Oh,
yes.
Yeah, you need to talk to Roland some more.
Glad to do it. We'll be happy to help. Well, you guys are in the United States. We can't really help you get any cheaper.
No, this is true, but I would like to ship. Oh, you're shipping into the United States, not
into the
out
United
of the
States.
United.
We're working on the out of the United States. I'm almost able to ship to the UK for $15 per book, and I'm talking like a Gemini mailer kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what we ship in. And we've got a couple of customers in Canada, and my penciler lives in Mexico. So anytime he sends artwork to Roland to put on the Kickstarter, the physical artwork, we have to do it way in advance, because it takes weeks.
It's got to go through 2 countries to get there.
Oh my God, it takes weeks to get it out of Mexican customs, and it's expensive. So yeah.
Well, people can get the digital for this for only $8. And I know we have a lot of people in our chat who are digital only kind of people. They just don't have the space. But then we also have people who are paper copies, sort of like Pop Culture Avenger here, who just backed Divinity, and now you are. We should see it. We should see this thing roll over here in a little bit. This is
$9 away! Yay! You guys are awesome.
Yes. Okay, it was rolled over $9 from the 5,500 mark, where you then hit a stretch goal, which gives us what again?
The stretch goals will be trading cards. We've already hit the first stretch goal, which are bookmarks. The second stretch goal will be trading cards, but the third one is where it really starts getting interesting, because Scott from Steam Patriots has got a bunch of patches made up, like uniform patches.
Right.
That will be the third add-on. And if we hit the fourth one, it's a digital novel of Scott's. And if we ever hit the fifth one, which is, we're going to have to do a lot to hit the fifth one in the days that we have left, is one of RA's original novels that's you can actually buy on Amazon, but we're giving it away as a digital freebie for a stretch goal.
Very nice. I was sitting here. I was trying to find the stretch goal images, but I don't think I would find them.
No, you have to go to updates.
Oh, okay. I see. So it'll be over here in the updates. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here looking at these fantastic inked pages here, people. The original pencils by Alex Sarabia.
Yep.
Yes, I'm just wrong with that.
He's got such a clean, beautiful style. And that's another thing is I wanted a very clear, clean style for this book. And while I've done tons and tons of image looking things, I didn't want an image look for this book because it's not a superhero book.
Yeah.
I wanted more of a classic, clean style, and it works very well for the story that I'm telling. And when I first brought this book to Roland, I was like, I want to do a book. And he was like, okay, you've never done one before. You're an inker. No, he was really good about it. I tease him that he gave it to me out of pity, but he didn't. I have written before once, many, many years ago for ElfQuest.
Oh, beanies. I love that.
Yeah, I used to work for Warp too.
You've been all over the place.
I have been all over the place. Now, Innovation, Warp,
I've got that scene
Halyard Press.
Yeah, I've got that scene from Footloose playing in my head now. The girl gets around.
Right. Yep.
I'm sorry. That was totally inappropriate. I didn't mean it.
No,
like that,
I have no problem with that at all. Where was I? Oh, yes. So he said, okay, turn in the script. I'm gonna put RA as your partner. I'm like, yes, thank God. He says, okay, now go find a pencil. I'm like, I have to find one?
Yeah, it's your book.
Yeah. Because I said, you're not going to help me find one? He's like, nope, your book. You go find a pencil. I'm like, oh, no. So I dove into DeviantArt for about a week. And oh, my God, what a cesspool that place is.
Yes.
And I climbed out a week later and there had lost a week of my life for nothing. And got on Facebook and somebody had friended me a few days before and then private messaged me. And it was this kid. Well, I think he's a little older than a kid, but everybody's a kid than me. And he goes, I'm a huge fan of yours. And it's one of my biggest dreams to work with you someday. I'm like, okay, I do get that once in a while. So, but I flipped over to his Facebook page. I'm like, holy shit. This guy is great. And I went back to the private message and I said, how about right now?
Yeah, he wasn't expecting that.
Nope. Then I had a penciler.
That's cool. That's and we're looking at these are what are we looking at here? They're original art pages that are available.
Yep. This one that you've got right up next to the Gone is Dean Zachary.
Oh, let me get back up to it. Okay.
Yeah, right there. That's Dean Zachary and his pencils, my inks.
And that's the cover.
That's a cover. That's the cover. And he also did a cover for Steam Patriots, which is right next to it. It's already gone. Dean's another pencil that I've worked with many, many times. And then right below it is a pinup by Ken Hoeberg. I don't know if your audience remembers Ken. He used to do Aquaman for DC. Oh. He was my penciler on Primal Force for DC and my penciler with Warp Graphics for ElfQuest. We've done a lot of stuff together. This is a pen and ink and gray wash original that he did just for the Kickstarter.
It's gorgeous.
It is. He's got a fantastic, very Art Nouveau style. And right next to it is one of the original pinups that I had for the first Kickstarter, but I didn't have the art available for it. It was done for, we did like little poster pinups, tiny little ones.
Yeah.
And this is by Mitch Faust and with my inks. And then if we go down a little bit, we get the legendary
Rick Hoeberg.
Rick
I know that name.
Hoeberg. Oh,
Couldn't
yeah.
tell you what I know it from, but I know I've got a ton of comics.
He's been around forever. I used to ink him in my Malibu days. He did Dick Tracy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this is an original that's available. My inks again over Rick Hoeberg. And then the last one is one of the original character designs that Alex Sarabia did when I first gave him my definition of my characters, what they look like. And he did up character design sheets for everybody. And this is the one for Olivia Barnes. And somebody the other day in a message on Facebook says, man, she looks like Brandy from Liberty Meadows. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think you're kind of right.
I was just about to say he looks very much like Frank Cho's style there.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to say, I don't want to say everybody looks like Brandy, but
what I really like about his style is his women look real.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't have 7-inch waists and they actually have hips, and that's one of the things I wanted when I approached him about this. I says, I'm not looking for the helium balloons tacked to the chest.
Yeah.
I want her to look like a real woman. And he gave me exactly what I wanted. I want her to be beautiful, but I want her to look real.
Appropriately proportioned.
Yes.
He's got a very stylized signature too. Do you have to ink signatures?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so.
Yes, I do. Because otherwise they come out, I print them out in blue lines or whatever, and they would never show up. So yeah, I ink over the signatures.
I've never thought about that before. I'm like, that makes sense. You'd have to do that. It would just be kind of weird. Can you like re-ink it onto like the bottom of the check somewhere afterwards? Yeah.
I wish so.
I've drawn this signature so many times.
If I had it to do all over again, I would have, back when I started in 1989, I would have just signed Babs and left it at that, because writing Barbara Kalberg on everything is just so exhausting. Why did I have to do my entire friggin' name? I would have just either just did a stylized BK or just called myself Babs, and like Prince calls himself, he's just one name, or what else is that singer that does that? Oh, with only one name. It just called myself Babs. 4 letters. It would have been so easy.
You'd have saved, probably 3.5 hours of time by now in your life.
Especially when like I had a guy catch me outside of a show once, and he had an entire long box of my stuff. And it wasn't multiple copies. It was one thing of everything I'd ever done.
That's a fan.
Yeah, he was a fan. He wasn't looking to turn it around and resell them. And he goes, "Oh, you're leaving? I was hoping to catch you at the show because I really wanted you to sign my books." And I'm like, "The whole box?" He goes, "Yeah." I says, "All right, put it on the trunk here." And I put it on the trunk of the car, and I signed every single one of them. And that was when I'm like, God, I wish I had a shorter name.
You just entered my Peter David Hall of Fame now. Because I saw Peter David do that at a con one time when somebody took a stack of books, and the kid was mentally challenged. He was disabled, and he was there with he was like 20-something. He was there with his dad. And Peter signed the first 5, took the next guy in line, signed the next 5, took the next guy in line, and did it until all those books were signed. I was like 19 at the time, and that stuck with me for years that he did that for somebody, for a fan.
I don't believe in charging for an autograph either. I'm just thrilled to have fans. Are you kidding?
You bought the book.
Yeah,
what,
and back in the 90s when I was like the it girl for inking and I was getting flown around to conventions and stuff like I still couldn't bring myself to charge because these were the people that were keeping the roof over my children's head and the food on the table. So I really, really couldn't bring myself to charge. I was just so grateful.
I remember when that first started. I think the first time I paid for an autograph at a convention was Neil Gaiman. And you know, Sandman had just started kicking up, and I had been used to going to conventions like this guy did with you there. You know, you all my boxes were up in my hotel room, and I was running up and downstairs to get stuff out whenever I'd seen somebody was there. And then I had all this stuff with Neil Gaiman on it, and they're like, you could take 2 items, and it will cost you X dollars a piece for each signature. I'm like, oh, now I've got to narrow things down, and you just took all the fun out of my convention. But
I have an original first run copy of Good Omens signed by Neil and Terry.
Oh my God.
And Neil signed it. We were at dinner here in Madison after the Capital City Comics retailer show. And we were sitting at supper there, and he signed it, you know, at dinner in some place in Madison with Barb, you know. And a couple of years later, I saw Terry in Chicago, and he signed it. But I don't really go after a lot of autographs. I probably have a half a dozen or less autographs, and most of them, I'd say 5 out of the 6 of them they initiated it. I never asked for it. I've got a couple of them from Bernie. He wrote a whole long page letter on the inside. Yeah, one of my best friends.
Oh, you just name dropper.
And I didn't even know about that one until I got home. It was one year in New York convention, the New York convention, and it was a blizzard and everything was snowed in. There were no taxis running, anything else, and he and I and a few others decided we were going to walk down to the village and watch some jazz. And I says, well, there's snow that's like 6 inches deep out there. I got to change first because I'm in a dress or whatever, you know. So everybody comes up to my hotel room, and I go into the bathroom and I change into something warm, and we all leave and we go and we have our fun evening, you know. And I had bought the little book which were all the Frankenstein art that didn't make it in the continued pages of Frankenstein. I had bought that earlier in the day and had it laying on my bedside table next to my bed. And it wasn't until I came home and I was going through it that I opened it up, and he had written this huge long letter on the inside page while I was in the bathroom, and I never knew it.
Oh man, what a discovery!
I know. That's the cool things that you can find.
Yeah, I used to collect autographs like that, and I still have signature pieces, but I don't buy autographs. I get autographs if somebody's with me, and I can look back and say, yeah, I remember when I talked to this person and we discussed this, and he or she signed my book. I've got Denny O'Neil on the inside of my first appearance of Ra's al Ghul Detective Comics, Batman and Robin. When I say Robin dies, he dies.
Yeah.
And he's died several times since. But I had some that doing the criticalblast.com thing. We had quite a relationship with people like Scholastic and Simon and Schuster, and they would give us books to promote. And at the time, I had a lot more time to read, and I was reviewing all these books. And they'd say, "Hey, how about doing an online giveaway?" I'm like, "Yeah, send us some signed copies. We'll do online giveaways." And I always kept one in reserve. Not because I'm like, yeah, this one's mine, although I kept it in mind, but you never know if you send one out, if it's not going to get delivered or it's going to get damaged. I'm like, I've got a backup. And if I didn't need the backup, then it would go on the shelf. But eventually I just had to clean house because I was running out of space. So I had all 3 of the Hunger Games books were signed by Suzanne Collins on the inside.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a bunch of the Cassandra Clare books that she was doing. Like, yep, okay. I didn't need the space anymore. I wasn't going to have time to read them again in my life, probably. I'll probably miss them at some point. took them to Half Price Books and made a nice chunk of change.
There you go. I have sold so many collections to Half Price Books, and then when I needed money, and then like a few years later when I have the money back, and I go buy them back again.
Yeah, I've done
missed
that
those
too.
books. Refill the whole library, and then turn around a few years later and sell them again.
I'm not sure how many times I've bought and sold my copy of Detective, the $1 million debut of Batgirl. I can't sell it now because I've got 4 comic books that I've absolutely made unsellable. And that is, I can't sell them by accident by selling a box anymore. I've got Green Lantern number 40, which was the very first mention of the Crisis. Got that iconic Alan Scott and Hal Jordan in a ring battle in front of the Guardians.
Oh yeah.
I've got it in a frame, glass frame with a border around it and a little label on it that says first appearance of blah, blah. And then in a matching frame next to it with a red border, I've got the Flash comic with the first appearance of the Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
And then in between them with a nice purple border, double cut, 2 comics. The first appearance of Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, and side by side with the first appearance of Batgirl, Betty Kane. So I've got
cool.
both of them in like one big frame. And like, they'll never get sold because it's going to be very obvious that there's something bigger than the comic box going out with this sale. And they're hanging on the wall now anyway. So
I have a lot of people ask me for pages from back in the day.
do you keep them?
I keep select pieces, but I've sold most of them. I had a lot of Ethan Van Sciver pages. I saved one and sold the rest because, times get tough.
I hope you were able to hold on to them until at least recently because he's kind of a hot commodity now.
Yeah. Well, I got a good price for mine. I didn't sell them until a few years ago. But I'll probably pick like one of my best pages out of every book, and then I'll sell the rest. I just don't have I've got something like 5,000 pages at one time. I couldn't keep them all.
Oh, of course. I'm reminded of I want to say it was somebody for the Comics Journal, but I can't swear to it. But it was for somebody who was doing a comics review magazine interview. They were doing it with Steve Ditko, and they mentioned how they walked into his studio, and he had an X-Acto knife out, and he was cutting things, and he was using original Spider-Man pages for a buffer between the paper and his desk. So they were slicing it because that's what he thought of the work. It was just
I had some like that too. It's just talking head pages and stuff like that. That was, to me, they were worthless. But I was out of comics for a while, and I eventually sold almost everything I had. Then I got back into comics, and now I'm stockpiling pages again. So I need to start doing conventions again. I got every single one. I had like 2 conventions a month scheduled in 2020, and they all got canceled because of COVID. So
yeah, I miss conventions too, but they seem to be making a resurgence this year. So have you got any confirmed convention plans coming forward?
Not yet. I'm right now. I'm focusing on tying up my brother's estate.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. That's rough.
Yeah, we're the trustees.
And a lot of work too.
It is. Oh my God, he had a farm.
Oh my gosh.
So we're his trustees, and there's like 10 outbuildings we've got to go through in the house and everything like that. It's just a massive job. So I can't think about conventions before we get that all wrapped up.
With your career, was that did comics run in the family?
No, I was the only. I'm actually my niece is very artistic, but other than that, I'm the only artist in the family. And a lot of people didn't even understand it when I first got into it. Oh, it's so nice that you have a hobby.
Oh, yes. were you a comics fan before that though? I mean, were you like the girl that nobody understood back in that day? Because
I was a geek, and I started reading when I was 5 years old.
Been there.
Yes, and my favorite thing to do lunch period was to sit by my locker and read. So I was kind of a nerd. I was always a nerd. But in high school, I started working in a pharmacy when I was 14 years old. And one of my duties was to go to the spinner rack and pull out all the unsold comics, right?
Right.
And then you rip the cover off.
Yes.
And they send the covers back, and they get so many cents per unsold issue, but you had to prove it by ripping the cover off and sending it back. And then I was supposed to throw the body of the books in the garbage. Well, they went into my trunk of my car, and then I would take them home and I would read them. And I was completely hooked on Travis Morgan, Warlord.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
I mean, I'm a 14-year-old girl, and here's this guy running around in a skull cod piece, and that's it. I think, oh yeah,
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I used to ask my dad about Tara and Shakira. I'm like, what holds those costumes on? He said, ink.
Yes. And for anybody who ever says that women aren't as shallow as men, never seen a woman drool over, movie stars, TV, or drawings, or comic book characters. I'm on Tumblr, and let me tell you, talk about another cesspool. And those girls are crazy. I mean, they get in vicious flame wars over the Avenger of movies, and Supernatural, and Sherlock Holmes, and they are absolutely over the top crazy. So women are definitely into the fandoms, and they have money to spend. They will go to a
glad
convention.
you had that outlet for the comics. I didn't have to worry about getting the ripped off covers growing up, because I grew up in Sparta, Illinois. So you've written enough comics to know what was going on in Sparta, Illinois in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, definitely.
People just brought them home from work, print overruns.
Yeah.
Yard sales were my first LCS. So,
well, I got on them for a while there, and in college, and I was back into reading fantasy novels, which was my mainstay. And then around in the 80s, I had kids, and I was stuck at home with two young ones and just going out of my mind. I mean, I love my children, but my intellectual IQ was dribbling out of my ears by the day, talking to 2-year-olds. And I ended up going to Walden Books one time, and I ran across the graphic novels for ElfQuest, and I was just gone. And it just revived this whole new life. And I would stay up till all hours of the morning drawing and stuff like that, and just totally into comics again. And went to a convention, started going to conventions, and then eventually got hired, and which worked out great, because when my kids were little, I could work at home, and we have an open floor plan here in the house, and I could have my studio and watch them, or I could take time off to run them around to school things, and then come and do my artwork. I was self-employed. It worked fantastic.
And no idea at the time that you picked up that first ElfQuest graphic novel that one day
I would be working for him. Yeah,
you would be working on it.
Yeah. Isn't that weird how that works?
I'm looking for Scott, and guess what? I've got email from Scott. Scott has made the same mistake that I've made on multiple occasions, which is which direction to the time zones subtract. And as such, he has double booked himself. So he is somewhere else right now and won't be coming on the stream to join us, which is okay. We'll reschedule him for Steam Patriots. I hadn't even noticed that we'd gone over the hour mark yet, because we're talking comics.
I know.
Why would we want to do anything other than that? Come on. Can we get $9 more from anybody out there, though, please? I mean, it's like, even if it's just the $10 back it because you believe in it kind of thing. No, don't do that. Buy a book. Don't do the double digital. That's only $8. That will leave us $1 away, and I will be very OCD frustrated on that.
Me too. So who was your first love in comics? Who did you first fall in love with? Everybody wants to fall in love.
Oh, well, it's in the chat. My puberty got ignited by Yvonne Craig in tights.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of guys that are the same way, and I remember the original Batman.
Yeah, and I used to run around in kindergarten playing Batman. It was annoying to everyone else at some point, but it was like, but he's the one I could actually be. I didn't come from another planet. I don't have a magic ring. I just need my parents to die.
And I grew up also watching or reading the Sunday funnies, and I I loved Little Abner because my dad looked exactly like him.
Oh my gosh.
And I liked Peanuts. Everybody liked Peanuts, you know.
Yeah.
And I still read Luann every day. It's like I start out with coffee and Luann in the mornings.
Yeah, I was because I was around Sparta, Illinois. I was getting my comics from the barbershop, and DC was my first, my gateway drug. But nobody realized that I was in kindergarten and I knew how to read, and nobody knew it because I didn't tell anybody. I assumed everyone could.
Let me ask you this: did you ever read the back of your cereal boxes at breakfast?
Barbara, I would sit in the bathroom and read the side of the detergent boxes.
One Christmas, my parents got me a joke gift. It was toilet paper with writing on it because they were frustrating. I would read everything. I would sit at breakfast in the morning and just turn the boxes, like the cereal boxes, and read everything on the cereal boxes.
Reading the ingredients, because I had to have something to read.
Yeah, I have to read at least 2 hours a day, or I go crazy.
Yeah, I wish I had the time to do that anymore. Now it's just, I can read the comics I get for review, and then it's like, the day's over. But yeah, the Batgirl thing. It when I went to my first convention and bought my first inked piece, what do you want? Like, have you ever drawn Batgirl before? Nope. Well, now you're going to. And it became an accidental body of work because I just got all these different people drawing their styles on one character. So rather than having who they're known for, like I don't have a Mike Grell, but if I were to meet him and he'd be like, did you get a Warlord or a Green Arrow? I'm like, no, I got a Batgirl. He doesn't draw Batgirl. I know. But actually he drew her falling from the sky on the front of a Superman comic, and she's saying, don't rescue me, go after the Joker who is flying off in a helicopter. That was a Mike Grell Action Comics cover. Yeah. So he did do art.
I bet you have a really fantastic collection.
It's not huge, but it's diverse, and I wish I had it with me to show, but I don't. I do have two photographs though that I did get signed by Yvonne Craig of her in costume. One of her standing doing the twirl with the cape kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And then the other one, I got the Triple Crown on it. It was a picture of her sandwiched between Batman and Robin from the series, and I sent it off to her and got it signed and came back. And it was just happened to be that same year at a local convention that I wasn't going to, both Adam West and Burt Ward were going to be there. So I sent it with a friend and money, and he came back, and now I've got all three of their signatures across the picture, and it's ready to be framed with my other stuff.
Well, that series had one of the few women who came pretty damn close to an ideal comic book body. That was Julie Newmar. Her figure was insane.
It still is.
Oh my God.
She's 80 years old.
I couldn't believe, that cat suit really fit her well. Yeah. I was, of course, I was a young woman then, and I was always a Robin fan. So,
well, and a lot of people were, a lot of the ladies were Robin fans first year. You know the story about what they had to do about that.
No, I don't. Please tell. Yeah. Dish.
Burt Ward, and this was covered. They did a biopic of Return to the Batcave, and they touched on some of this stuff. It was kind of a silly story, but they were also going back and telling some of the stuff about the making of the League of Decency or whatever it was that would monitor television. Yeah. They had a problem with the bump in the front of the green shorts.
He filled them out a little too well. They gave him pills. They put him on saltpeter. You're kidding me.
Yeah, they made sure that that shrinkage was always in effect. And he got divorced sometime after that. And I can't help but think that there might have been something related there.
I've heard of a lot of crazy things that you do to become an actor or an actress. Remove a rib and to get the lips plumped and the boob jobs and the ass filler and all that stuff. But it's the first time I've ever heard of somebody making a guy, emasculating a guy like that. That's exactly
because he had to be the boy, and he was wearing the tight shorts, and it was TV. and it was a well-paying job at the time. I mean, the Batman TV series was, it was, I can't believe it only went 3 seasons, but it was all the rage. Everybody had to be on it.
Yeah. That's crazy.
The funniest Burt Ward story I've heard, I've got to get him on the show while he's still with us and everything. Talk about his dog rescue and stuff. But I can't remember the guy's name now. He played the Green Hornet, Van Williams. Was at a convention. He was talking about the Batman crossover episode they did with the Green Hornet. If you remember that one.
I do, because I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan. Kato.
Yes. Well, he was telling Kato stories. He's how Bruce Lee would sit on the back of the set when they were filming somebody else, and he would practice his kicks. And his thing was to see how close he could get to the ear of the cameraman without the cameraman noticing it. And they were always like, "Cut that out! You're going to hurt somebody." He's like, "No, I'm very accurate and very precise. That's the whole point of this." And then, sure enough, the cameraman turned one day and caught it right in the jaw, and knocked him down. Probably broke his jaw. But the Batman story was that Bruce Lee obviously did his own stunts, and Burt Ward had to as well. When he was crawling over a crocodile pit, it was a crocodile, and he was crawling over it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Unlike crawling up the side of the building, which was just flat.
Yeah. Well, he did that stunt too, but it just wasn't nearly as difficult.
No.
But when they said action, they had to shoot the fight scenes between Robin and Kato a couple of times, because every time they said action, Bruce turned it on, and he was like, and Burt was backing away, said, "Call him off, call him off."
I'm sure he was.
I don't really want to get in a fight with Bruce Lee.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. It would have been hot, but I mean, I wouldn't want to.
Well, I'm sitting here on this number, folks. This number's not moving. Can you make this number move just a little bit? We want to see $5,500 gets the trading card set.
Yep.
And by set, it's what is it going to be? I mean, I didn't find the art. So what's the trading card?
It's not up. Actually, I just finished it this afternoon. So it'll be one trading card featuring Divinity, and on the back side's her bio, and one trading card for Steam Patriots in the same. So it'll be two trading cards, one for each book. But they won't be reproductions of the cover, because obviously you just finished it. So it'll be new artwork. Mostly new. It's portions of previous artwork that's been manipulated around to fit on a different format. So, and the backside is different. So it's a little bit of this cover, but I've cut it down. I've moved figures around to be able to fit on the background.
Yeah. Okay. Size. So. Yeah, I got you. You got to collage it a little bit too.
Yeah, because the sizes are different, the dimensions. So there's 6 days to go on this. You said there's another stretch goal that's out there for the patches. What was that one? Was that 6,500 or? We're going to 6,000. 6,000. So if we reach 5,500 here in the next $9, you get the trading cards, and then if we reach 6,000, then we really start getting into the good stuff, the patches. And the digital books. So that's only $509 to go. That's right. This is doable, folks. We can do this. Well, usually you'll see that in almost all Kickstarters, you hit a slump about midway. Yeah. And then right at the end, it picks up again. Well, it's definitely true with crowdfunding in general. It's like first week and last week are your real hot times. Kickstarter specifically. If people think like I do, I back Kickstarters on the last day, not because I'm waiting to see if they're going to get funded or if I'm going to waste my money, blah, blah, blah. I do it because Kickstarter doesn't take your money until the campaign's over. Whereas Indiegogo, it could be day one. And I'm like, yeah, take $20. And they're like, done. And $20 leaves my account. Right. I use PayPal for everything. I have money that funnels into PayPal from different side jobs I do. And when I want to back a book, I'm like, what do I got in PayPal? Oh, $35. Take my PayPal. Too. And if I do that with Kickstarter and I forget about it, I'll see an Indiegogo. I'm like, what have I got? Oh, $35. Take my money. And then Kickstarter comes back later and says, hey, where's this money you told us we could take? I'm like, oh, you didn't take it when I told you to take it? That was one of the nice things about doing conventions is I would sell books or artwork at conventions and it would automatically go into my PayPal and it would the same. I would say, well, what have I got in PayPal right now? Sitting there, what can I spend this on? But it's empty at the moment.
Yeah, I felt like I had walked into, stepped into the future the moment I was able to take credit cards for book sales at a convention. Because I got that thing to go on my phone, that square stripe. And I'm like, wow, this actually works. I'm taking fake money and I'm taking digital dollars.
And I have the PayPal little. You buy it for $25. It's a one-time purchase. It's about this big, and you slide your card, either slide it or stick it in.
Yeah,
and it's provided to you by PayPal, and it'll dump it into your PayPal account. So
I didn't get the one from PayPal. I got the one from Square. Maybe I should look at PayPal because that's where I wanted to go anyway. Good, and it takes any card, right? I mean, it's just that's perfect. All right. Well, Barbara, what else you want to talk about? I mean, we can keep talking, or I can let you go.
I don't know. I'm kind of out of things to talk about, and I thought Scott was going to be along, so I do have other things I got to get to tonight. So if you don't mind,
let me let you do that, and I will just thank you at this moment for coming on our show and sharing Divinity with us. I think the concept is fantastic. I love the idea. I mean, we've had healers before. It's not a new power, but it's what you're doing with it and the world that you're putting her into that really makes this one stand out. So I recommend to everyone in our chat and to our readers that they should check out Divinity. And I'm sure that I will recommend Steam Patriots too when I get to talk with Scott.
Oh, I can't wait for that one either. I'm a huge history buff. So when we decided to team up on this one, I was like, yeah, I want this one. I want to team up with this one because this sounds so interesting to me. I can't wait to see this.
First time I've seen steampunk not set in Victorian England.
Well, and that's the whole point that he wanted to make, is that it had to start somewhere. So he has the beginning of the steam revolution starting in the Revolutionary War, and it's very basic and it's dirty, and sometimes things blow up, and because they're just getting it off the ground.
If you think about it, the steam engine is an American invention. It should have been here in the first place. What was Robert Fulton?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Elms. You'd be proud of me.
There you go.
High school history. Anyway, thank you again for coming on and bringing Divinity to us. Everyone in the chat, we want to thank you for being here as well. We don't have a show without you, and we do appreciate you being here. Hit the like, hit the share, not for me, but to share Barbara's work with everybody else so that other people can come and back the book, so that they can see it, get the word put out there. And as always, we just hope you had a blast